CEO of the CETOS Group. We're a California-based 2-year-old biochar startup. Jessica Bronner is our Director of Communications and Marketing, and so she's going to help quite a bit with this presentation. It's really nice to see some familiar faces here. Hans-Jörg and Doug, that presentation was very, very informative. So we're delighted to be a part of this. Ours is a bit more anecdotal than some of the fact-based presentations like Conjure, but we'd sure like to engage as a group of farmers that are making biochar and sequestering carbon in wine grapes. So, Jessica, why don't I let you take it from here?
Yeah, thank you again, Green Carbon Webinar, for having us on this platform. And then thank you
Yeah.
for all you here today who are joining us. Hopefully, you take something new and exciting about the possibilities of biochar. So, jumping right into it, we've all been down the grocery store aisle with products labeled organically grown, sustainably produced, and regeneratively made. And while all of these products are collectively contributing to the fight against climate change in some way or another, what if there was a label that was more direct about its product's impact on the environment? What if there was a label for carbon negative products and a system put in place that gave those products the right to claim carbon negativity? So, as Mayo said, my name is Jessica Bronner. I'm communications and marketing, and this is Mayo Ryan, CEO and co-founder of CETOS Group. And together, as he said, we're a biochar-based biochar producer and carbon removal company on track to producing a carbon negative commodity, with our first project being in almonds. So I'm sure we're all familiar with biochar and its ability to foster soil regeneration and effective carbon sequestration, but we want to go a step further and shed light on biochar's unique ability to tie together these 4 generational economies that you see here on the screen. In the soil health economy, the circular systems economy, carbon sequestration, and renewable energy economy that all converge through the production and the sequestration of biochar, a process that CETOS Group is actively working on to develop, again, that carbon negative almond. I'm going to pass it on to Mayo Ryan as he goes more in depth into these 4 new economies, and take it away.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jessica. Hans-Jörg, you laid this out pretty well. The three main stools, legs of the stool, the tripod are right biochar, the sale of the carbon removal, the resulting carbon removal, and renewable energy. We look at each of those as, really a third, 33 and a third, right? Trying to keep it quite equal in terms of income, and we've planned for all three. But California, the agricultural market in California is not great right now. We have a pilot plant that's been operating now for a year at Regen Monterey, which is Monterey County's waste management district, and we're using municipal wood waste that we grind and organic pellets to make biochar there. But our business is really designed by going into agriculture and using agricultural byproducts as feedstock. So we feel very, very confident about the waste management business and the circular economy, and are proving that at Monterey, using a system that was designed by Johannes Lehmann and Stephen Joseph in Australia. Thanks, Jessica. Here's the slide of that, our pilot plant. It's a slow pyrolysis system, and we chose this for a number of different reasons. When we were contemplating this, several years ago, the number of manufacturers that Hans-Jörg mentioned just weren't around, so we kind of had to figure something out on our own. But we're farmers. Primarily, our focus is in soil health and moisture retention and plant nutrition. And so, the goal is to customize biochar for specific soil types. Our sister company is Monterey Pacific. Monterey Pacific farms about 20,000 acres of premium wine grapes on the Central Coast, and those soil types vary dramatically. And if we're going to move into California into a more horticultural group of crops like pistachios, almonds, maybe hazelnuts in Oregon, we see significant variance in soil type. And so this machine had to be adjustable, fairly feedstock agnostic. Our business model is to distribute these facilities, go where the feedstocks are produced, and they need to be scalable. We have one machine at the Regen Monterey pilot plant, but the plan is to templatize a 3-machine system, which will produce, on the income side, equally amounts of carbon removal, energy, and the biochar sales. But as I said earlier a little bit, and if you want to go to the next slide, um, Jessica. And so here we go. We're just continuing to follow up with what Hans Jorg spoke about, in the renewable energy economy. Next slide. With these three machines side by side, we can produce anywhere between 1.5 and 2 megawatts of power. We did these calculations actually several years ago using a machine that had a minimized capacity. We've increased the capacity of these systems by a pretty good amount, and so that would be a minimum energy number. Next slide, Jessica. Um, and so for us and our sister company, Monterey Pacific, it's all about getting the biochar into the ground. We've done our in-house soil scientist, Dr. Doug Beck, has been doing research on biochar and wine grapes for almost 10 years now, but we have an ongoing 8-year study. We just finished our fifth harvest, and over the last 5 years, in that vineyard called the Oasis Vineyard, we've seen a 37% yield increase average over 5 years, and some really important takeaways about what biochar and compost. So the control block was business as usual. We had biochar only, compost only, and a biochar compost blend. And that biochar compost blend really outshined all of the other treatments. And we didn't see any detrimental effects at all in wine grape quality. And with that 37% increase in yield and a sustained level of wine grape quality, we didn't use any more water than the control groups. And so, next slide, Jessica. We feel really good about biochar's role in soil health, plant nutrition, and drought mitigation. This is equipment, what Jessica is showing now, that we've developed in-house and patented. There just simply wasn't any equipment to get the biochar we were making into the vineyards. This is the latest piece of equipment where we can get about 2 tons per acre of biochar with a 4-ton compost blend right next to the plant row in the root zone. The other piece of equipment that we've had to produce on our own is an ejector. The best benefit for biochar is in a pre-plant situation where we're putting about, it's a 40-60 blend biochar compost, 10 tons of biochar and 25 tons or 15 tons of compost. And to those effects that I just mentioned, we do see the market down quite a bit in biochar. And that's, I think, from a very unusual set of production or business situations with existing producers in California. But what we're trying to do, next slide, Jessica, is to, oop, let's see here. There we go. Anything? Is to, okay, so here's the carbon removal side of this equation, which I discussed earlier. Next slide. And what's great about biochar is it really does link all these together. Our business was really formed starting in 2017 when I built a fairly large almond processing plant in Northern California. And I was curious. Our accounting firm at the time, Keiko Isom, had a sustainability division in Washington, D.C. And so in 2019, we did a study about what the carbon footprint would mean if we put those three machines at the almond huller sheller. And what you see in the bottom right-hand corner is a negative 34,400 tons of CO2 per year delta over business as usual. And what this showed, very interesting, is that delta from business as usual, which is a positive emission, into that 16,000 negative emission, was just taking that shell and using it to make biochar, interrupting the carbon cycle and not allowing that shell to decompose and have all that carbon go back up into the atmosphere. What's not included here, and what we didn't plan on in 2019, was the carbon market. I mean, Pearl Earth had just come out with its biochar methodology. And so this number, that 34,000 down at the bottom, we think is a minimal number. This also doesn't include the transition from petroleum-based synthetic inputs that most farmers use today, almost all farmers use today, and switching to biochar, and so minimizing the impact of the production of those artificial nutrients on the atmosphere. So we're really anxious to get our first almond-based project up and running so we can redo these numbers and show this benefit. As I said, the almond or the agricultural market in California is really down right now. Wine grapes, this is the worst year in California wine grape history for wine grape growers selling to wineries. Almonds are way down. Walnuts are below the cost of production today. So if you're a walnut grower, you have any sort of debt, you're probably really thinking about getting rid of these trees. We pushed 100,000 acres of almonds last year out. Now, those were 25-year-old orchards that needed to come out. Generally, it's between 25 and 40,000 acres. So we have now two sources of biomass, both the shell at the almond plant and all of this almond wood waste that can no longer be burned. So vineyards and orchards in California, as of this last January 1st, can no longer be burned on site. So pyrolysis and biochar production is a really interesting solution. Next slide, Jessica. So we're wondering and are quite serious about this is can we create that fourth leg of the stool, right? The fourth leg, fourth income stream, and apply the benefits that we're seeing in that study that I just showed you at North State to the almond plant where we hope to build our first commercial plant. And that's in joining together. And Doug, I'd love to have a conversation with you a little bit later about this, but actually trying to join together the biochar that's sequestered in the wine grapes or the almonds that are farmed with the carbon removal that's coming through. Jessica launched late last year what we call our Uncorked project, CORC, kind of a play on words there, but where we're trying to link the biochar that we're sequestering in wine grape vineyards with the 66 wineries that are taking that wine and having a complete supply chain throughput with carbon removal. But this almond plant, we think we can do that. And so when almond prices are down, if there is a way that we can take these carbon removal sales and find another 5 cents, maybe 8 cents a pound, we don't know what that price premium would be for the almond company selling those carbon negative almonds. But in this down world in the agricultural sector, that might be a very welcome input. The other thing is to use our byproduct heat during the 3 months of harvest to facilitate above ground harvest. In Australia, they dry almost everything. Here in California. Almonds are harvested onto the ground, let dry over 10 days to 2 weeks. And so from the months of August through November, California air quality really suffers because we've got 1.8 million acres being swept at least 2 or 3 different times. So if we can take some of that byproduct energy, either fuel a dryer with electricity, fuel the almond hulling plant with electricity, and take that heat and fuel a set of very large, high capacity dryers, boy, we could make a really big influence in the almond industry. And so that's the point there. We're a bit unusual in our biochar production is that we wear almost every hat other than Carbon Future, who's our carbon brokerage. We are the producer of the biochar, or will be at scale. We sequester the biochar in wine grapes using equipment that we've had to design and patent, and we farm the 20,000 acres of wine grapes that are using that biochar. And likely in a couple of small cases, we'll be making wine from those grapes coming out. So we're a bit unusual. We wear a lot of hats. The throughput in our business is Nuveen Natural Capital. Nuveen Natural Capital owns Monterey Pacific, our sister company, and actually has an equity stake in the almond huller sheller that we're using. So the hope is for us to take the knowledge that we've established over the last 8 years in biochar and wine grapes and move that knowledge into the horticultural division, which is almonds and pistachios. And so we are a bit of the captains of our own fate. We use about 10,000 tons of biochar at Monterey Pacific per year, and that's going to be a little bit greater than the output of our first commercial plant. Next slide. When we talk about whether the demand pull is in place for a carbon negative almond or even perhaps a carbon negative bottle of wine or something else, along with Chico State's brand new Center for Regenerative Ag and Resilient Systems and a large chocolate company named Barry Callebaut, we did two webinars in mid to late 2020. And I just, for fun, look at the people that were participating in those seminars, and almost to a T, every single person, every one of these companies said, yes, absolutely. We want this. So the demand pull is there. I was talking to the owners where we planted our plant, and at their last meeting with Danone sent 6 people from their sustainability team to tour the plant. This would be a really great offering for that almond huller sheller or that almond company to show folks like Danone or Kind Bar or Cliff Bar, the folks that are buying their almonds. Next slide. And so that's it. Not quite as detailed as yours, Hans-Jörg, or yours, Doug, but we are trying to do something interesting in the agricultural world with biochar. It hasn't been the easiest thing in the world. Like I said, we've had that pilot plant up and running for a year. And have had we're kind of pushing the way on EPA with pyrolysis and air quality permits, operating that machine, scaling it appropriately for a first commercial operation, and it's been a lot of good learnings, but we're very excited about the future. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mayo and Jessica. So the chat is open for any questions from the audience, or otherwise you can just unmute yourself. From my side, just because I'm more European focused usually, are you does the Inflation Reduction Act has any influence on your business case, or do you expect it to?
Unfortunately, I'm also vice chair of the U.S. Biochar Coalition, a newly formed industry policy group, and we're pushing hard in order to have both the 45Q tax credit that is really for BECS and DAC right now to have some biochar language there. We're working on a couple bills in California to create a compliance market. SB 308 is the specific one. So any U.S.-based or California-based producers, please help us support SB 308 here in California. But right now, the IRA does not effectively cover biochar. The USDA has the Soil Carbon Amendment Program, Permanent Code 336 now, where they'd like to help growers pay for biochar and a biochar compost blend to get into agricultural soils. It's not quite perfected yet either. We see a lot of great things happening and hopefully just right over the horizon, but each one of those efforts still needs a bit of work and nudging in the right direction. Good question.
So I see a question by Monica.
Hi. Yeah, so excited to hear this news. So I'm Monica Farrell. I work in fair trade coffee for about the last 30 years or so. And for the last 10, really focused on coffee and climate change and searching every way possible to bring biochar into this equation. And I've seen amazing, amazing, amazing impact on this. So some of my questions and maybe comments, well, first of all, the idea of a label that I helps to identify, it's interesting. My world is around labels. Don't overestimate the power of labels, would be my cautionary word to that. Without a really, really strong not just consumer education, but sustainability director education program with these companies. Because in the world of coffee, I know there's tons of talk and I think also really great intentions and big companies stepping forward. But you start talking about microbes in soil and even carbon negative is like, or climate negative, like they're all the terms still are getting mixed up. And I think there's a lot of confusion about, yeah, where the next steps forward are going to come from. So that would be my sort of caution, words of caution. And at the same time, really encouraging you because there is huge, huge interest in being able to do something. And like in coffee, for example, the future of coffee is absolutely at risk because of climate change and the most stupid technical advice going to farmers to push them exactly in the wrong direction. So there is like an acute or like urgent need to turn that around. And I think biochar has a great role to play there. So I'll just leave it at that and let Alex continue with
All
comments.
great comments, Monica. We're treading lightly. It seems like every time we unearth or turn over a rock, there's another huge issue. And you're absolutely correct about labeling. We could speak for hours about what our path forward looks
Yeah.
like. We're barely touching the surface right here.
Yeah. Anyway, power to you.
Yep. Keep the faith.
Yes.
Alex, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Alex. I'm working with AgroCCS project. We are doing almost the same, but in Italy, trying to do this with wine grapes. And I wanted to ask your experience about biocertification of such a wine. Did you explore biochar, possibility of using biochar for biocertification? Thanks.
Pardon me, for what application?
Biocertification, biological wine.
Yeah. Um, yeah, we're farming wine grapes at scale, and so are trying to keep it as detailed as possible. Monterey Pacific, our sister company, has been in business now for, I think, Jessica, this is their 32nd year anniversary, and so helped form some of the quality standards for wine grape growers in California, sustainability in practice, the Lodi rules. Our co-founder at CETOS and the owner of Monterey Pacific, Steve McIntyre, regularly lectures on wine grape quality and the use of biologicals. It's a great question. I wish I had a better answer for you. We're very focused on biochar at CETOS, but we know that that biochar is compatible with a lot of biologicals. Monterey Pacific isn't the biggest user of that yet. We still have a long way to go. I don't know, Jessica, anything to add on that?
Okay, thank you
Um,
very much. Sorry.
you're good. I was just going to add to that and echo Mayo's. I haven't heard anything from at least Monterey Pacific with biological wine, but I have heard a lot about it. And there's actually another winery, actually in Italy. You guys might be on the same team there that are working with biological based wines. So, um, his name is Robert. If you're familiar with him, you guys could connect. But that's his focus is on biochar and that as well.
There are hundreds of wine producers in Italy. So
Right.
thank you for your answer. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. And one more question. There are a lot of different things that may happen when you with wine grapes when you put their biochar. How your farmers, how your producers react on, for example, possibility of additional yield of these wine grapes. How they react on quality of their berries of final product of wine. Did you
Yeah,
explore
boy,
this?
with your email address, I'd be happy to send you. You can just Google the
Yeah.
Oasis Vineyard trial put on by the Sonoma Ecology Center. We spoke about it at Climate Week a couple weeks ago. We did test all wine grape quality components, pH, uh, bricks, all of the color components, thysins, and the biochar and the control were even. And so what we took away from that, Alex, was no detrimental effects on wine grape quality whatsoever. And we didn't see, for example, on that 37% average yield gain, which is well over 2 tons per acre, we saw a very similar wine grape quality. So the argument that, oh gosh, you're boosting yield, you're going to drop wine quality down, did not play out. And so that was kind of an exciting thing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very
And
much.
Alex, I just posted in the chat a link to our website, which is Biochar and Wine page. On the very bottom of that page has a list of different studies that you can go into. The one that Mayo is talking about specifically is the Oasis Vineyard field trial. So
Yeah, thank you
have
very
at it.
much. Yeah, we have a lot. There are a lot of studies for sure. Yeah, just open internet. Yeah, a lot of scientific papers on this and experimental papers. We explored a lot. But anyhow, thank you very much. I wanted just to hear your experience. It's of course very important. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the lively discussion. So if there is any remaining question, you still have a minute or two to ask that. Otherwise, I have to shut off soon because all our European viewers are already past their working hours. Um, so I use this minute to let you still ask a question in the chat to announce our next webinar in 2 weeks, which will be from featuring Bart van de Kastelen, talking about biochar in circular horticulture, so not too far away from our presentation now. And the second one from Hugh McLaughlin about biochar characterization using his GACS instrument. So any urgent questions? Or not so urgent. Otherwise, you will find the contact details on the internet, so you have the names, the companies, and so on our website. And you can watch the recording again as many times as you want in a couple of days.